I was woken up this morning thinking about how historically we have lived in so many different places. In our short lifetime, we have lived through a span of many things that have been very important. And as writers, being able to write this, to portray it, to relay it, is really an important and very amazingly interesting aspect of writing. I recently did a reflection on some of my earlier days growing up in the late 60s and early 70s. And as I wrote, many of these things came back to me. The Vietnam War, the concerts in the park, growing up in Ann Arbor, where we had a food co-op that was put together by John Sinclair. As I began to relate some of these different things, the riots, the race riots, the horror of all of that, it was amazing how it all came back to me. And sometimes we don't think of the things in our lives as being totally significant, but they are. And there are many, many people who responded to this work because they themselves had also experienced the same. Or if they were younger, they were fascinated because they had heard, about the hippies, but they thought everything was peace and love and joy. And to talk about the underbelly of some of this was of great revelation to them. So in the morning light, I am really thinking about this and thinking about how we all have important aspects of our life, historical aspects of our life to talk about. Depending on how old you are, there's different things that were significant to you. And, sometimes we think, oh, it was just my life and everybody knows about that. No, they don't. They didn't live it. They didn't live in Ann Arbor, Michigan during a time when the flower children, they didn't live in Ann Arbor, Michigan in the midst of all of these things that were happening. They didn't know what it was like to be that age during that time. I would like to just challenge everybody to think about a particular historical time in your life and to write about it. And as we write, as you write, incredible stuff starts to come up. Our writing memory starts to kick in, and we begin to bring to the page things that maybe we have forgotten about. A lot of times things on the surface look one way, but when you dig deeper and allow yourself to go deeper, there's amazing and very important words of history, words of experience, words of emotion that want to show up on the page. So look at the history of your life and pick out some times that were significant. I know one thing that people always say is, where were you when JFK was shot? If you're old enough to remember that. And that's been a place where a lot of people remember because it was historic. But where were you in the midst of Chernobyl? Where were you when the Great Wall was taken down? Where were you when some of the different iconic rock stars, things that happened? Where were you when George Harrison died? What are your thoughts on a great performer that you saw? Bringing these into our writing can be so rich and so valuable. Sometimes we think we have to write timelessly, but we don't, because there are segments, snapshots of things that happen that are so profound and can be so moving and can be so poignant in our writing.